The Whispering Dawn, a vessel unlike any forged by conventional means, shivered with a dying hum in the interstellar void. It was not built of metal or alloys, but grown, a vast organic construct of interwoven biofilaments and living plasma, pulsing with the unique luminescence of its Aetherian crew. Its hull, typically a vibrant tapestry of shifting colors that mirrored the cosmic dance, was now a sickly mottled gray, its internal light wealth dimming like guttering candles. Within, Captain Vel Aris felt the painful drain in their own form, a core resonance designed for the ebb and flow of ambient stellar radiation now struggling against profound emptiness. Captain, Nav Rel, the ship's primary astrogator, transmitted, their light patterns flickering with alarm. The lumen vents are at 12% capacity. Core cohesion is failing. We have perhaps 4 cycles before total dispersion. Vel Aris solidified their light form, a desperate effort to maintain presence. Their people, the Aetherians, were beings of highly refined, sentient energy. They existed as pure consciousness, manifesting in the physical plane as intricate, luminous light constructs that moved and interacted with the universe. They breathed through complex internal energy conduits, processing ambient stellar radiation and resonating with the cosmic symphony. Darkness, true energetic void, was an anathema. The Whispering Dawn had embarked on a deep space expedition, charting anomalous nebulae, seeking unique gravitational signatures that might offer new insights into the universe's fundamental forces. It was meant to be a journey of profound intellectual discovery, a testament to Aetherian wisdom and peaceful inquiry. But 2 cycles ago, a rogue void spore had found them. Not an anomaly of space, but a colossal semi-sentient parasitic entity. It had attached itself to the Whispering Dawn with terrifying speed, its root-like tendrils burrowing into the living hull. It had feasted on their ship's core energy, draining their internal luminevents and leeching the very life force from the Aetherian crew. Now, light years from any known Aetherian outpost, their FTL conduits ruptured, their long-range comms barely a whisper. They faced the ultimate dispersal. Captain, Biosith, the ship's primary energy healer, transmitted, their own form visibly shrinking. Biosith was tending to several injured crew, their light barely coherent. The Sparklings, their internal light cohesion is failing. They cannot draw sustenance from the diminishing ambient energy. Relares shifted their awareness to a corner of the main observation deck, where 5 young Aetherian Sparklings huddled, their forms barely more than shimmering outlines against the deepening gloom. These were children, brought along to experience the universe, to learn the subtle energy harmonies of cosmic creation. Their delicate internal filaments, usually vibrant with stored light, flickered erratically as they struggled to draw sustenance from the failing lumen vents. A cold resonance, alien to their energy-based physiology, pulsed through Vel Aris's core. These were their people, their charge. There had to be a way. The wide-spectrum beacon, Vel Aris resonated, their voice a low, desperate thrum. Can we transmit a distress call beyond known Aetherian space? Navrel activated the emergency system. The console pulsed weakly, then projected a faint stellar map onto the central display. The ship's damaged cognition core began its desperate search for any civilization with interstellar travel capabilities. Scanning for rescue possibilities, the ship's primary cognition core intoned, its normally melodious voice now fragmented and strained. Please await calculation. The crew gathered around, their forms growing dimmer as the seconds stretched. Faint dots of light appeared on the map, representing various alien civilizations. Most were too distant, their FTL capabilities insufficient to reach the Whispering Dawn before its core light dispersed entirely. Others were designated as species incompatible with Aetherian physiology, gaseous entities or gravitational beings whose environments would be instantly fatal. Then, abruptly, a new vibrant dot flared on the map. It was startlingly close compared to the others. The cognition core highlighted it in an alarming, pulsating crimson. Suitable rescue civilization found, the cognition core announced, its voice holding a note of synthesized warning. Planet designation Sol 3, species Terrans, technology level advanced, FTL capability confirmed. Estimated travel time to rescue 15 cycles. Vel Aris's core resonance contracted as they absorbed the information. Sol 3? I have no resonance with this designation. Navrel, check the interstellar archives. Navrel's light patterns shifted with urgency over their control panel. After a moment, their usually calm lumina patterns flared with alarm. Captain, I have located it, but there is a problem. What manner of problem? Velaris inquired, a shiver running through their light form. The planet Sol 3. Navrel projected the data. The crimson warning growing more intense is listed in the restricted files. It is classified as designation Red Etheric Hazard. Records indicate unpredictable species Terrans. Contact forbidden. The archives warn of extreme territoriality, rapid expansion, and destructive internal conflicts. A species prone to self-annihilation. A profound silence descended upon the observation deck, broken only by the faint, gasping hum of the failing lumen vents. Every Etherian aboard knew the implications of a red etheric hazard. These were worlds so volatile, so saturated with internal strife and external aggression, that any species evolving there would be inherently savage. Their very existence a threat to galactic harmony. The Great Consensus, the governing body of peaceful species, had strict protocols regarding avoidance of such worlds and their volatile inhabitants. But Captain, Biosith whispered, their translucent body almost invisible against the ship's dim interior. Observe their technology rating. It indicates advanced energy manipulation and rapid interstellar transport. They could reach us in time. Velaris stared at the pulsating crimson warning. The Cognition Core estimated these Terrans could reach them in 15 cycles. Just enough time to save their crew, save the Sparklings. But if they truly were the unpredictable, aggressive beings depicted in the archives, they observed their dimming crew. The Sparklings' internal light flickered almost imperceptibly. Several crew members had already entered pre-dismersion states, their forms losing all translucence. They did not have 15 cycles to debate this. Perhaps the archives are outdated, Velaris murmured, more to themselves than to anyone else. Any species capable of interstellar travel must have evolved beyond primal aggression. They must have embraced universal harmony, like all consensus members. Navrel pulsed faintly in agreement. Perhaps the classification is based on ancient, unverified data, or a misinterpretation. Velaris made their choice. With deliberate movements, they activated the wide-spectrum distress beacon and aimed it towards Sol 3. The message, carried on a compressed quantum stream, would reach the Terran homeworld in a matter of moments. They carefully composed their plea, each resonant light pattern vibrating with desperation. Emergency transmission to planet Sol 3. This is Captain Velaris of the research vessel Whispering Dawn. We are critically imperiled, adrift in the void with failing lumen vents. Our coordinates are galactic coordinates. We have 42 crew members aboard, including 5 young Sparklings. We are explorers, seekers of cosmic knowledge. We mean no harm. Please, if you perceive this message, we desperately require rescue. Time remaining, approximately 4 cycles. After transmitting the message, Velaris solidified their form into their command recess and waited. Around them, the crew struggled to maintain their coherence, but the growing darkness in their forms spoke volumes of their fear. They were placing their very existence in the hands of complete strangers from a world marked as dangerous as chaotic. How long until a resonance? Biosith asked, their voice barely a hum. If they receive our message and choose to assist, Velaris responded, we should feel a reply within the next cycle, then 15 cycles for them to reach us. The waiting began. Every few moments, Navrel would update the lumen vent readings. The numbers continued their relentless descent. 10%, 8%, 6%. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the communication system crackled to life. A new resonance pulsed through the speakers, deep and resonant, unlike anything in the Etherians' experience. The ship's damaged universal translator struggled, its circuits whirring as it attempted to parse the alien phonemes. Attention vessel Whispering Dawn, the voice rumbled, coalescing into understandable Etherian, though with a jarring lack of tonal harmony. This is Admiral Jenna Rostova of the Terran Stellar Defense Command. We have received your distress call and are preparing an immediate rescue mission. Please transmit your detailed ship specifications and crew physiological requirements. Assistance is underway. The observation deck erupted in a chorus of faint, relieved hums. They were saved. But as Velaris resonated with the message again, certain words lingered, chilling their core. Terran Stellar Defense Command. Not Terran Research Cadre or Terran Exploration Initiative. Defense Command sounded militaristic. Captain, Navrel whispered, their light pulsing with concern. Did you note the title Admiral Rostova? That is a command rank designation for a warrior. Vel Aris felt a coldness spread through their internal light lattice. What manner of rescue ship would be commanded by a military officer? What kind of civilization placed their armed forces in charge of 8 operations? But the lumen vents were at 5% now, and the sparklings were barely distinguishable from the surrounding loom. There was no time for second thoughts. They had called for assistance from the red etheric hazard homeworlders, and now that assistance was coming. All they could do was wait and hope that they had not made a terrible mistake. Outside the ship, the stars continued to burn coldly in the darkness, guarding their secrets about what was racing toward the whispering dawn through the void. Deep within the Terran Stellar Defense Command headquarters, buried beneath the bustling metropolis of Neo-London on Earth, alarms suddenly pierced the regulated air with their sharp, urgent blare. Admiral Jenna Rostova was in her office, reviewing strategic projections for the outer colonies, when her communications officer burst through the door, nearly skidding to a halt. "Admiral, emergency transmission from an unknown alien entity," Lieutenant Commander Kalen Vance exclaimed, breathing heavily from his run. "They're asking for rescue." Rostova rose quickly, her tall, imposing frame casting a long shadow across the room. Her closely cropped silver hair and sharp, intelligent eyes bore the indelible marks of 30 years, navigating the complex currents of interstellar politics and conflict. "Aliens? Are you certain it's not a fabrication? A baiting maneuver by the Cathar or the Xylos?" "The transmission signatures are unlike anything we've ever intercepted, ma'am," Vance insisted, his eyes wide. "The linguistic patterns, the energy signatures, it's unequivocally non-human. And ma'am," Vance paused, his voice dropping, "the bioscan data they sent indicates critical life support failure. They're dispersing in space." Rostova followed Vance to the main command center, a vast chamber where dozens of officers worked at glowing holographic consoles. The immense central display showed a detailed map of the local sector, with a small, weakly pulsating dot marking the location of the alien vessel. "Play the message," Rostova ordered, her voice cutting through the hum of the command center. The speakers filled the room with a strange, resonant hum that softened into understandable Terran. "Emergency transmission to Planet Sol 3. This is Captain Vel Aris of the research vessel Whispering Dawn. We are critically imperiled, adrift in the void with failing lumen vents." Rostova listened to the entire message, her expression growing more serious with each word. When it concluded, she turned to her tactical intelligence officer, Colonel Ben Carter. Carter was a stoic man with a neatly trimmed beard and eyes that had seen too much. "What do we know about this area of space, Colonel?" Rostova asked, her gaze fixed on the coordinates. Carter pulled up detailed star charts on his console. "Ma'am, that's the Veiled Frontier sector. It's been highly contested lately. The Xylus Hegemony, the Cathar Imperium, and the Cygnus Confederacy have all been establishing forward operating bases there. All are currently expanding their spheres of influence towards Terran space." "Could this be a trap?" Rostova mused, her brow furrowed, her eyes narrowing as she studied the coordinates. "Bait to lure one of our patrol ships into an ambush?" Carter zoomed in on the biological readings transmitted by the alien ship. "The life signs appear genuine, ma'am. We're detecting 42 distinct biosignatures, and 5 appear to be younglings, based on their lower energy requirements and more fragile light structures. If it's a deception, it's an incredibly elaborate one." Rostova was silent for a moment, her strategic mind shifting through possibilities. She had cultivated a deep suspicion during her long military career. Too many good personnel had been lost to cunning enemy ploys. But the reading showed children dispersing in the cold vacuum of space, and that changed the equation entirely. "What's our closest available vessel to their position?" she asked. "The ISS Intrepid, ma'am," replied Captain Mei Li, the fleet coordinator. She was a no-nonsense woman in her late 40s who had commanded deep space patrols for years. She just completed a perimeter sweep near the Vulcan Gate and is on standby for refit. Captain Marcus Caldwell commanding, full complement of 1200. Rostova nodded. The Intrepid was ideal for this mission. It was one of Earth's newest Defender-class heavy carriers, a 3-kilometer behemoth bristling with the most advanced weapon systems humanity had ever devised. More critically, it possessed exceptional medical facilities and auxiliary deployment bays designed for large-scale rescue operations. "Get me Captain Caldwell on the line," Rostova ordered. The main screen flickered, then showed the bridge of the Intrepid. Captain Caldwell appeared, a calm, steady man in his mid-50s with neatly trimmed salt and pepper hair. Behind him, Rostova could discern the efficient, rhythmic activity of a warship's bridge crew. "Admiral, we received the alien transmission," Caldwell stated, not waiting for orders. "My medical team is already analyzing their physiological data." "What's your assessment, Captain?" "They're not human, ma'am, but they're definitely failing. Dr. Lena Petrova indicates we can adapt our environmental systems to accommodate their energy-based biology. The ship appears to be a research vessel. No weapon signatures detected that we could confirm. We did detect an anomalous energy drain consistent with a large parasitic organism, now detached." Rostova made her decision. "Captain Caldwell, you are hereby ordered to proceed immediately to the provided coordinates and render assistance to the alien vessel. Full rescue protocols are in effect. Be advised, the sector is contested. Expect potential hostile contact." "Understood, ma'am. What are our rules of engagement if this proves hostile?" "Protect yourself and your crew first," Rostova stated, her voice firm. "But remember, if this is genuine, we are about to make first contact with a new alien species. How we handle this could shape Earth's future relations with them for millennia." Caldwell nodded seriously. "We'll be ready for anything, Admiral. Estimated travel time at maximum hyperspace speed is 15 cycles. Make it 14 if you can, Captain. Those younglings don't have much time." As the connection ended, Rostova turned to address her staff. "I want full monitoring of this situation. If the Intrepid encounters any resistance, I want to know immediately. Also, get me a secure line to the President. She needs to be informed." Colonel Carter stepped forward. "Ma'am, shouldn't we contact the Great Consensus about this? It's standard procedure for first contact situations." Rostova's expression darkened, her jaw tightening. "The Consensus? They've been stonewalling our requests for full membership for 70 years. 3 of their member species are establishing military outposts C in safes we consider ours, and their archives label us as aggressive and unpredictable. As far as I'm concerned, this is between us and these, what did they call themselves?" "Etherians, ma'am, from the research vessel Whispering Dawn," Vance supplied. "Right. This is between us and the Etherians. The Consensus doesn't get a say." Meanwhile, aboard the ISS Intrepid, Captain Caldwell is preparing his heavy carrier for the rescue mission. The massive Defender-class vessel hummed to life, the entire crew shifting into high alert protocols as they prepared for a deep space jump. "All hands, this is the captain," Caldwell's voice echoed through the ship's internal comms, calm and authoritative. "We are responding to an alien distress call. This is a rescue mission, but we are entering potentially contested space. All departments are to prepare for possible combat while maintaining readiness for humanitarian operations." In the medical bay, Dr. Lena Petrova worked with her team to understand the alien physiological data. "Their energy processing system is entirely unique," she explained to her chief nurse, Lieutenant Commander Alistair Chen. "They don't breathe in the traditional sense. They exist as pure light, absorbing ambient energy through an internal core matrix. We'll need to adjust the environmental controls for optimal light spectrum and energy saturation. I want portable Luna emitters ready for immediate deployment, calibrated for a Type B Etherian energy signature." Chief Engineer Valery Korolev, a woman known for her methodical precision, was overseeing modifications to the Intrepid's life support systems. "If we're taking 42 Etherians aboard, we'll need to expand our energy manifold outputs and create isolated containment zones to prevent energy flux anomalies. I want auxiliary Lumina generators charged and ready for transfer." In the Marine quarters, Sergeant Jax Bones O'Connell, a veteran with a no-nonsense demeanor, briefed his elite squad. "We don't know what these Etherians look like or how they'll react to us," he said, his voice a low growl to the assembled troops. "Remember, this is a rescue mission. We get ready to engage but hoping to help. Our first priority is extraction and medical support. No unnecessary force. Maintain a calm presence. They're scared, losing their light." As the Intrepid entered hyperspace, its formidable hull glowing with the contained energy of faster-than-light travel. The crew settled in for the 14-cycle journey. None of them knew that they were about to contact a species that thought of them as dangerous, unpredictable monsters from a red etheric hazard homeworld. Admiral Rostova remained in the command center, watching the Intrepid's progress as a bright streak on the star map. In a few days, humanity will either gain new allies among the stars or face a new enemy. Either way, the galaxy was about to learn that Terrans did not abandon those who called for help, no matter who they were or where they came from. The countdown had begun. Aboard the Whispering Dawn, the situation was deteriorating by the cycle. Captain Valeris watched the Luminvent readings drop to 4%, while their crew grew increasingly dim, their forms flickering like dying embers. The 5 sparklings were barely conscious now, their small bodies struggling to maintain even a faint internal glow. "Captain," Navril whispered, their voice so weak it was almost inaudible. "The Terrans, how much longer?" Valeris's internal chronometer registered the remaining time. 2 more cycles. "We must maintain coherence for 2 more cycles." Biosith moved slowly between the injured crew members, doing what they could with their failing energy manipulation equipment. Several Etherians had already entered full dispersion. The ship felt like a tomb, quiet except for the fading hum of the ship and the labored flickering of the survivors. Suddenly, the ship's sensors began to pulse with an urgent alarm. Valeris forced their form to shift, stumbling to the navigation console. What they perceived on the screen sent a jolt of primal fear through their light structure. "By the great spark," Valeris gasped, a fractured resonance escaping their vocalizer. Navrel observed this. A massive object was approaching hyperspace, something so vast that the ship's damaged cognition core was struggling to calculate its exact scale. The energy readings were unlike anything in the Etherian database. What is that entity?" Navrel hummed, pulling their dimming form up to perceive the display. Before Valeris could offer a resonance, space itself seemed to tear open in front of them. A swirling vortex of raw energy and pure light appeared, growing larger and larger, impossibly vast. Then, like a monstrous predator surfacing from the deepest void, the Terran vessel emerged from hyperspace. The Intrepid was a nightmare rendered tangible. It was colossal, at least 70 times larger than the Whispering Dawn. Its hull was a dark, oppressive gray, armored with plating thick enough to deflect small stellar bodies. Rows of weapon emplacements jutted out from its sides like the predatory spines of some colossal beast. Missile launchers, energy cannons, and devices the Etherian sensors couldn't even begin to identify covered every surface. The fore of the ship was shaped like the brutal head of a hunter, with sensor arrays that glowed with an unnerving predatory crimson light. Along its sides, Valeris could perceive the scars of past conflicts, places where the armor had been breached and hastily repaired, telling silent stories of savage engagements among the stars. This is what answered our plea for assistance?" Biosith whispered in horrified disbelief, their light almost extinguished. "This is a ship of war, not of rescue." The Intrepid moved closer, and now they could discern smaller details that made it even more terrifying. Gun turrets tracked their movement with autonomous precision. Launch bays stood ready to disgorge smaller, sleeker craft. The entire vessel hummed with a barely contained, immense power. Then, the communication system crackled to life with that deep, rough resonance that sent chills through every Aetherian on the observation deck. "Alien vessel Whispering Dawn," the voice rumbled, the Etherian translator struggling to keep up with its sheer force. "This is Admiral Jenna Rostova of the Terran Stellar Defense Command. We are responding to your distress call. Prepare to be boarded for rescue operations." The voice paused, and they could hear faint echoes of other Terrans speaking in the background. A chaotic cacophony. Then the Admiral continued, her tone devoid of softness. "Do not make any sudden movements or attempt to activate any weapon systems. We are here to help, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." Valeris's light appendages trembled as they reached for the communication controls. Their people had called for rescue, but they had summoned something that looked more like an instrument of ultimate destruction. Still, with their crew fading around them, they had no other choice. "Terran vessel," Valeris resonated, trying to keep their hum steady. "We We possess no weapons. We are a research vessel. We submit ourselves to your mercy." There was a prolonged pause from the Terran ship. Then the Admiral's voice returned, but it sounded confused. "Submit, Captain Valeris? We're not here to conquer you. We received your distress call and came to rescue your crew. Do you require medical assistance?" Valeris's core resonance pulsed in surprise. These warriors, with their massive ship of destruction, claimed they were here to help? It seemed impossible. In all the archives, all the warnings about red etheric hazard species were depicted as savage entities who annihilated without compunction. "Admiral Rostova," Valeris resonated carefully. "We are fading. Our lumen vents have failed, and we have injured crew members. But your vessel, it is constructed for conflict." Another pause. Then a different voice resonated over the radio, calmer, more harmonious. "Captain Valeris, this is Captain Marcus Caldwell of the ISS Intrepid. Yes, our ship is designed for combat operations, but we also carry full medical and rescue facilities. We have medical personnel, environmental adaptation equipment, and everything needed to sustain your crew. May we board to provide assistance?" Bioscythe reached out, their fate form touching Valeris's arm. "Captain, the Sparklings do not have much time left. Whatever these Terrans are, we must trust them." Valeris observed their dimming crew and made their final decision. "Captain Caldwell, you have permission to board our vessel. Please, help us." "Understood. Preparing rescue teams now. We'll have you and your crew coherent and stable within 30 Terran minutes." The Intrepid moved closer, and the Etherians could perceive vast airlocks opening along its side. Smaller craft began to emerge, sleek shuttles that looked fast and dangerous, but also emblazoned with medical symbols and rescue insignia. As the first Terran shuttle approached their ship, the crew of the Whispering Dawn huddled together, their fear a palpable energy drain. Through the viewports, they could perceive figures in massive, powered armor moving inside the shuttle. The Terrans looked huge and threatening, even in their rescue gear. "They appear to be soldiers," Navrel whispered, their light barely visible. "Because they are soldiers," Valeris resonated quietly. "We called for assistance from a species of warriors." The docking clamps engaged with a loud clang that reverberated through both ships. Venpei perceived the hiss of airlocks connecting and equalizing pressure. Heavy, rhythmic footsteps echoed in the corridor outside the observation deck. Footsteps that belonged to entities much larger and denser than any Etherian. The bridge portal slid open with a soft sigh of hydraulics, and the first Terran stepped inside. The entity was tall, significantly taller than any Etherian. It wore powered armor that made it look even more massive and intimidating. The armor was a dark, functional gray, with scratches and dents that spoke of genuine use in fierce engagements. A full helmet obscured the Terran's face, with glowing displays and sensor equipment that gave it an alien, unfeeling appearance. But then, something utterly unexpected occurred. The Terran paused just inside the doorway and slowly reached up to remove its helmet. As the helmet came off, the Etherians perceived their first Terran face. It was the face of a female with short dark hair and eyes that even in the dim light seemed to hold a spark of concern. Her skin was a pale hue, and there were faint lines around her eyes and small scars on her cheek that spoke of old wounds. But despite her warrior's armor and weapons, her expression was gentle and filled with a surprising empathy. "I'm Commander Lyra Jensen," her voice resonating and accented, but perfectly understandable Etherian. More Terrans entered the observation deck, but instead of weapons, they carried specialized medical equipment and portable energy emitters. They moved with military precision, but their actions were focused entirely on assisting the fading Etherian crew. Captain Valeris watched in utter bewilderment as these fearsome red etheric hazard homeworlders knelt beside their weakest crew members and began working to save their very light. The contradiction was too much for their energy-depleted mind to fully process. Warriors who came to heal, soldiers who came to rescue, threat-level red etheric hazard beings who treated alien children with infinite care. What kind of species had they truly contacted? Commander Jensen surveyed the observation deck of the Whispering Dawn with a rapid professional assessment. The energy was thin, the ambient radiation critically low, making it difficult even for the armored Terrans to remain comfortable. The Etherian crew members were scattered around the room, some in full dispersion, others barely able to emit light. "Medical priority 1, she called into her comm unit, her voice urgent. "We need portable lumen emitters and emergency energy recalibrators. These beings are in critical condition." Behind her, 4 more Terrans in powered armor entered the observation deck. But unlike Jensen, they kept their helmets on and carried large medical cases instead of weapon arrays. They moved with the same military precision, but their sole focus was on the failing aliens. Dr. Lena Petrova, a short, determined Terran whose armor bore prominent medical caduceus symbols instead of combat insignia, was the first to reach the sparklings. When she knelt beside the smallest Aetherian child, her movements were surprisingly gentle for someone in such heavy equipment. "Easy there, little one," she murmured softly. Even though the child couldn't understand her words, her tone was universally calming. She pulled out a portable scanner and began running it over the young Aetherian's form. Captain Valeris watched in growing fascination as the device beeped and displayed readings that Dr. Petrova somehow interpreted. The Terran doctor frowned at the results, then reached into her medical kit and pulled out a small, portable lumen emitter. "This should help," Dr. Petrova said, carefully placing the emitter near the child's fading light structure. Immediately, the young Etherian's internal light began to pulse more strongly, and some translucence returned to its dimming form. How did you know how to assist our young?" Valeris asked, their voice filled with a profound wonder. Dr. Petrova looked up and offered a brief, warm smile. "Your distress call included biological data about your species. We've been analyzing it during our journey here. Our energy processing system is actually quite elegant. You can process various light spectrums through both ambient absorption and direct energy channeling. We just had to adjust our equipment to match your needs." Petrova worked on the children. The other medics spread out across the observation deck. Sergeant Jax Bones O'Connell, a tall Terran with surprisingly gentle hands, was helping Navrel re-establish their internal light patterns from a portable energy unit. Another medic, Corporal Doc Reynolds, was carefully examining Biosib's energy output, assessing damage from the Void Spore. "Commander," called out one of the medics, their voice urgent, "we need to transport these beings to our medical bay as soon as possible. Several of them have severe energy deprivation, and the energy healer has significant internal lattice damage." Jensen nodded and activated her communication system. "Captain Caldwell, we need immediate medical transport. The Etherians are in worse condition than anticipated." Caldwell's voice resonated back, clear and precise. "Understood, Commander. Medical shuttles are standing by." "How many passengers?" Jensen did a quick visual count. 42 total, including 5 younglings. At least 15 require immediate intensive care. "We're ready for them. Bring them home." As the Terran medics prepared the Etherians for transport, Captain Valeris noticed something that utterly astonished them. These warriors, who looked so frightening in their battle armor, were treating their crew with an incredible tender care. When they carefully lifted injured Etherians onto flexible stretchers, their movements were precise and gentle. When they spoke to frightened crew members, their voices were calm and reassuring, even though the words were in a foreign language. Sergeant O'Connell was helping one of the older Etherian crew members to flow to the transport shuttle. The alien was weak and flickering, but instead of becoming impatient, O'Connell simply adjusted his pace and provided steady, unwavering support. "Take your time," he said in broken Etherian, obviously having learned a few key phrases during the journey. "No rush. Safe now." Biosith, conscious despite their injuries, pulsed faintly at Valeris's arm as they were being moved to a stretcher. "Captain," they whispered, their voice filled with growing realization. "These Terrans, they are not what the archives said they would be." Valeris pulsed in agreement, equally bewildered. Everything about these creatures suggested they were born for conflict. Their ship was a weapon, their armor designed for battle, and they moved with the coordinated precision of trained soldiers. But their actions spoke of profound compassion and unwavering mercy. Commander Jensen approached Valeris as the last of their crew was being prepared for transport. "Captain, we need to move you now. Your energy levels are worse than the others. You've been exposed to the critical energy depletion the longest." "I must remain with my vessel," Valeris protested weakly. Jensen shook her helmeted head firmly. "Sir, with respect, your ship is inert. The lumen vents are completely defunct, and the hull ruptures are too severe to repair out here. We'll take you aboard the Intrepid and restore your energy levels. Then we can discuss the disposition of your vessel." As they helped Vel Eris onto a stretcher, they looked around the observation deck of a Whispering Dawn one last time. This had been their home for cycles, and now they were leaving it in the hands of alien warriors from a red etheric hazard homeworld. The transport shuttle was unlike anything Vel Eris had ever perceived. The interior was clearly reinforced with military walls, weapon storage compartments, and seats designed for armored soldiers. But the medical equipment was more advanced than anything in the consensus. The Terrans had converted their war machine into a sophisticated ambulance. During the short flight to the Intrepid, Vel Eris observed Dr. Petrova working on the most seriously injured Aetherians. The Terran doctor's hands moved with practiced skill, using devices that could monitor alien biology and adjust treatment accordingly. "How long have your people been practicing medicine on other species?" Vel Eris asked, their voice still weak. Dr. Petrova looked up from her patient, her eyes warm. "We haven't. You're the first non-human patient we've ever treated. But the principles of trauma medicine are fairly universal, and your biological data helped us prepare." Vel Eris was stunned. These Terrans had risked their lives to rescue complete strangers from a species they had never even encountered before. They had modified their equipment, learned basic phrases in the Etherians' resonant language, and treated their crew as if they were their own people, their own kin. The shuttle docked with the Intrepid, and Vel Eris perceived their first glimpse inside the massive Terran heavy carrier. The corridors were wide and starkly functional, with exposed conduits and wiring that spoke of a species that valued efficiency over aesthetic beauty. But everywhere they looked, they saw signs that this ship's crew was prepared for their arrival. Signs had been posted in both Terran script and hastily translated Aetherian symbols, showing directions to medical facilities. The ambient light had been adjusted to be more comfortable for their species' light structures. Even the atmospheric humidity had been modified to be less harsh for Aetherian forms. As they moved through the ship, Vel Eris saw Terran crew members pausing their work to observe the injured aliens passing by. But instead of the curiosity or hostility they might have expected, their faces showed concern and empathy. A young Terran technician approached Commander Jensen, their voice respectful. "Ma'am, we've prepared special quarters for our guests. Light spectrum and energy levels are set for Aetherian comfort, and we've installed communication systems with translation protocols." Jensen nodded approvingly. "Good work, Specialist Davies. Make sure they know they're welcome here." As Vel Eris was wheeled into the medical bay, a profound realization began to form in their energy-depleted mind. Everything they thought they knew about red etheric hazard homeworlders was utterly, fundamentally wrong. These Terrans were indeed warriors. That much was irrefutable from their ship and equipment. But they were also healers, protectors, and caregivers. They were something the galaxy had never truly perceived before. Soldiers with hearts, oh Starlight. As Vel Eris was gently wheeled further into the medical bay, the transition from the failing Whispering Dawn was immediate and profound. The bay itself was a marvel of Terran engineering. Walls pulsed with adjustable light fields, calibrated precisely to Aetherian comfort. Specialized energy conduits snaked across the ceiling, emitting a soft, ambient hum that resonated with their core matrix, beginning to replenish their depleted reserves. Instead of the chaotic, dimly lit scene of their own ship, here was order, efficiency, and a controlled, focused energy. Dr. Lena Petrova, her face illuminated by the subtle glow of diagnostic screens, oversaw their transfer from the stretcher to a specialized energy absorption couch. Its surface felt strange. Not organic like the Whispering Dawn's interior, but soft and yielding beneath their light form, designed to evenly distribute ambient energy across their structure. Petrova's hands, surprisingly deft despite their human density, adjusted the couch's settings. "Welcome aboard, Captain Vel Eris," she said, her Aetherian perfectly translated. "We're going to get your energy signature back to optimal levels. You've been through a lot." Vel Eris's light form pulsed weakly in gratitude. Around them, the other rescued Aetherians were also being situated. The Sparklings, now absorbing energy from dedicated lumen emitters, began to glow more strongly, their faint forms gradually regaining translucence. A collective resonance of relief hummed through the bay as the immediate threat of dispersion receded. Over the next cycle, the Intrepid's medical bay became a sanctuary. Dr. Petrova and her team worked tirelessly. Valeris observed them, fascinated. These Terrans, so physically dense, so seemingly rigid, moved with a fluid, adaptive grace, lending to their light-based forms. They adjusted light spectrum, humidity, and atmospheric pressure with scientific precision, constantly monitoring the Aetherians' recovery. Sergeant Jax Bones O'Connell, the imposing Marine Valeris had seen earlier, frequently checked on the Sparklings, sometimes simply sitting nearby, his large armored hand resting gently on the frame of their energy couch, an act of silent reassurance. They seemed to understand the fragility of our existence. Bio-Sith, now radiating a more stable light, commented to Valeris one cycle later. Despite their own robust physical forms, they treat us as if we are precious glass. Indeed, Valeris resonated, their own light form now nearly at full vibrance. It contradicts everything the consensus archives indicated. One Terran, a young medic named Specialist Davies, often engaged Valeris in quiet conversation, seemingly eager to learn. Captain Valeris, Davies asked one shift, while adjusting a biomonitor, "Your ship, the Whispering Dawn, Captain Caldwell's engineers want to know more about its organic construction. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. And the Void Spore, our scans indicate it was a living entity that latched onto your hull. Do you have more data on such organisms?" Valeris paused, formulating their response. "The Whispering Dawn is grown, not built, Specialist Davies. It is a symbiotic extension of our life force, allowing us to traverse the void while maintaining energetic harmony. As for the Void Spore, it is an anomaly. We have little data. Our charts indicated the Veiled Frontier to be free of such predatory life forms. It appeared from a dark pocket, a place where even light struggled to exist." Davies nodded, relaying the information to a portable datapad. "Interesting. Our initial analysis suggests it fed on raw energy, like some kind of cosmic vampire. We've collected samples from your hull for study. Admiral Rostova is highly interested in its nature." As days passed, and the Intrepid continued its journey towards safer space, the Aetherians' recovery progressed rapidly. Valeris, fully coherent, was granted access to the ship's common areas, always accompanied by a Terran escort, often Commander Lyra Jensen herself. It was in these shared spaces that Valeris truly began to perceive the Terrans. The Intrepid was a hive of activity. Crew members, human and cybernetic alike, moved with purpose. Valeris observed their interactions, quick, efficient communication, yet also moments of casual camaraderie, laughter, and shared meals. They noticed the Terrans' reliance on dense physical objects, food, tools, furniture, so different from the Aetherians' energetic existence. Yet there was a raw, undeniable vitality to them. They were beings of flesh and bone, vulnerable in ways Aetherians were not, yet capable of immense resilience and surprising tenderness. One cycle, Valeris found themselves in a recreation deck, observing a group of Terrans engaged in a complex, tactical simulation game. Commander Jensen sat beside them. "Commander Jensen," Valeris resonated, "your people, they are deeply engaged in simulations of conflict, even in moments of leisure." Jensen turned, a faint smile on her lips. "It's how we train, Captain, how we unwind. Our history is complex. We fought many wars, against each other, and now sometimes against others. It's ingrained." She paused, her expression becoming more serious. "And out here, in the contested sectors, readiness is survival. We don't see conflict, Captain, but we are prepared for it." "Prepared for it to protect others?" Valeris queried, the question hanging in the air. Jensen's gaze met theirs, unblinking. "To protect ourselves, to protect those we care about, and sometimes to protect those who cannot protect themselves, like your people." Valeris absorbed this. The Aetherians had always avoided conflict, retreated from aggression. They had always assumed any species that embraced combat was inherently primitive or malevolent. But these Terrans, they were combatants who chose compassion. Later that cycle, Captain Marcus Caldwell requested Valeris's presence on the Intrepid's bridge. The vast chamber was even more impressive than Valeris had imagined. Holographic displays shimmered with star charts and tactical readouts. Dozens of Terran officers worked in quiet, focused coordination. "Captain Valeris," Caldwell said, his voice calm amidst the low hum of the bridge, "I wanted to personally thank you for the data regarding the Void Spore. Our science division, led by Dr. Petrova, has been analyzing the samples retrieved from your hull. It's concerning. A new display materialized, a microscopic rendering of the void spore's cellular structure, glowing with malevolent purples and greens. This organism, Caldwell continued, tapping a control, is incredibly adaptive. It uses a unique bioenergy signature to disrupt and absorb existing energy fields. It's also reproducing rapidly. We believe it wasn't a natural anomaly, Captain. We believe it was deployed. Velaris pulsed in disbelief. Deployed? By whom? And for what purpose? We're not sure yet, Caldwell admitted, a muscle twitching in his jaw. But the veiled frontier has seen an increase in unexplained energy fluctuations in rogue gravitational pockets lately. Now, we have a theory. These aren't just contested borders. They might be testing grounds. Testing grounds for a bioweapon? Vel Eris resonated, a chilling realization dawning. The Great Consensus would be horrified. Such a weapon, if unleashed, could destabilize entire star systems. That's our fear, Caldwell confirmed. And if it's true, then the Xylos hegemony or the Qatar Imperium could be behind it. They've both been aggressively probing our defenses. Vel Eris felt a familiar coldness. This was the aggression the archives warned of, but not from the Terrans. It was the Terrans who were now standing against it, not only for themselves, but for the victims like the Etherians. We are nearing the edge of the contestant zone, Captain, Caldwell informed them, gesturing to the main star map. We expect to pass into Terran-controlled space within another cycle. You and your crew will be safe then. We will arrange for your transport to a secure facility on Earth, where you can complete your recovery and we can establish long-term energy protocols for your species. We'll also open a diplomatic channel to your Great Consensus, inform them of your rescue, and share the data on the Void Spore. Vel Eris felt a surge of gratitude. To be safe, to allow their people to recover fully, it was all they could ask. But the thought of the Terrans confronting the Consensus... Captain Caldwell, Vel Eris began. The Consensus archives hold a particular classification for your world. Red etheric hazard. They prohibit contact. Caldwell's expression remained impassive. We're aware. 70 years ago, when we first achieved interstellar travel, we applied for Consensus membership. We've been denied ever since. They claim we're too volatile, too prone to internal conflict. They see our defense fleets and assume aggression. They don't see the people we protect or the reasons we build them. They do not perceive the hearts of starlight, Vel Eris finished softly, a poignant sadness in their hum. Indeed, Caldwell said, a rare, genuine smile briefly touching his lips. Perhaps your testimony will change their perspective, Captain. Perhaps you can show them that human isn't a synonym for hazard. Just as Vel Eris felt a fragile hope bloom within their light form, the bridge systems flared crimson. Alarms blared, sharp and jarring. Captain, Ensign Ryan, the navigation officer, called out, her voice tight with tension. Multiple FTL signatures detected. Unidentified vessels emerging from hyperspace at extreme velocity. Bearing 270 Mark 15. Caldwell's posture shifted, becoming rigid, prepared. On screen, identify them. The main view screen, which had previously displayed the quiet starfield, flickered, then resolved onto a distant cluster of incoming ships. Vel Eris's core resonance contracted in primal fear. The vessels were angular, aggressive, and utterly devoid of the graceful organic lines of Etherian design or the functional symmetry of Terran warships. They bore the distinct insignia of the Qatar Imperium, a stylized, predatory claw. Qatar Battle Group Captain, Colonel Ben Carter's voice was grim, estimating 3 cruisers, 6 destroyers, and multiple fighter wings. They're accelerating. They've detected us. Evasive maneuvers, Caldwell barked, his voice ringing with authority. Full power to shields. Vel Eris, instinctively, tried to draw their light form closer, feeling the vibrations travel through the deck beneath them. Shields holding at 80%, Rianne reported, her voice strained. Return fire. Target their lead cruiser's weapon conduits. Red and blue energy beams lanced out from the Intrepid, streaking across the void towards the Cathar vessels. Explosions erupted on the Cathar cruiser, its shields flaring brightly before dimming significantly. The Intrepid was a warship designed for this. Vel Eris watched, mesmerized and terrified as the battle unfolded. The Cathar were relentless, their ships circling, firing with brutal efficiency. But the Terrans, they were equally relentless, equally efficient. They were fighting, not with wild abandon, but with calculated precision. Every shot, every maneuver, executed with deadly intent. Captain Caldwell, Velaris resonated, their voice barely audible above the din of battle. They are attacking without provocation. Why? Caldwell, his eyes fixed on the tactical display, replied without looking away. Because we're in their perceived territory, Captain, and because they likely know we're rescuing you. They consider any new species aligning with humanity as a threat to their expansion. Weapons officer, target their engines. Disable them, do not destroy. We want them operational enough for a boarding party, Caldwell ordered. Marines, prepare to repel boarders. Defense teams, ready for hull breaches. The Intrepid roared, unleashing a barrage of kinetic rounds and energy pulses. One of the Cathar destroyers exploded in a flash of light, turning into a cloud of debris. The Cathar cruiser, battered, attempted to withdraw, but the Intrepid was faster, a monstrous leviathan chasing its prey. Captain, Ryan cried out. Long-range scans detecting something else. Another FTL signature, coming in fast. Not Cathar, it's the Xylos hegemony. A new threat. Velaris felt a chill that permeated their life form. The Xylos hegemony was another one of the aggressive expansionist species mentioned in the archives, even more notoriously brutal than the Cathar. To face both at once. On the main display, a new group of ships, sleek and angular with a sickly green hue, began to emerge from hyperspace, flanking the battle. Their weapons immediately began to charge. Caldwell's face tightened. The Cathar were a distraction. The Xylos were waiting. He turned to Colonel Carter. Status report on the Etherians. All Etherians are secured in the medical bay, Captain, Carter reported. Dr. Petrova confirms they are stable, but the energy fluctuations from combat are causing some discomfort. Understood, Caldwell said, his gaze sweeping across his crew, his voice gaining a hard, resolute edge. We will hold. We will not abandon our guests. He activated the ship-wide comm. All hands, this is the captain. We are engaged with combined Cathar and Xylos forces. This is a coordinated attack. They are attempting to overwhelm us. We have vulnerable refugees aboard, and we will protect them at all costs. Show them what humanity is capable of. For Sol, for Earth, for the Etherians. Defense protocols, Omega-7. Engage! The Intrepid shifted, its massive frame turning to face the new threat, its weapon systems glowing with newly charged energy. Velaris, trembling, watched the behemoth warship prepare for total war. Their people had called for rescue from a red etheric hazard, and now that hazard in its brutal, terrifying glory was fighting for them. The battle intensified. Projectiles and energy beams crisscrossed the void. The Intrepid, outnumbered, retaliated with shocking ferocity. Velaris could feel every impact, every explosion reverberating through the ship. The noise was deafening, a symphony of destruction. Yet through it all, they observed the Terrans, calm, determined, unyielding. They were not fighting out of malice, but out of a fierce, desperate protectiveness. Suddenly, a series of shuddering impacts rocked the Intrepid. Alarms screamed, shields down by 50%, hull breach in Sector Gamma 9, drive core fluctuating. Damage report, Caldwell roared, his face grim. Fleet coordinator, new course. Get us out of this crossfire. Navril, can you find a safe jump point for us if we can disable their interdictors? Velaris, still processing the raw, terrifying spectacle of the Terrans defending them, heard their name. Navril? But Navril was on the Whispering Dawn. Wait, Caldwell was looking at them. Captain Velaris, Caldwell's voice cut through the chaos, clear and urgent. We analyzed your navigational data during the transit. Your people charted this region with incredible detail. Can you identify a stable, hidden FTL jump point from these readings? A non-standard route that the Cathar or Xylos wouldn't anticipate? Velaris' mind, still reeling from the combat, struggled to process the request. They were energy beings, explorers of cosmic harmony, not strategists of war. But Caldwell's eyes, intense and unwavering, held a desperate plea. He was asking for their unique knowledge, for their different perspective. We require access to the long-range navigational array, Velaris resonated, their voice laced with newly found resolve, and undisturbed focus. The calculations are complex. You'll have it, Caldwell snapped, turning to Ensign Rian. Ensign, route Captain Velaris directly into the main navigation console. Give them full access, now. Velaris was quickly moved to the console, their light form interfacing with the Terran technology. and data streams flooded their senses, raw and unfiltered. They saw the Intrepid's position, the enemy movements, the fluctuating energy fields, and the faint, almost imperceptible resonances of a void beyond. The battle raged around them, the ship shuddering, but Vel Aris forced themselves to focus, drawing on the deepest knowledge of their people, the subtle harmonics of spacetime. They searched for the hidden pathways, the delicate folds in reality that only Etherian perception could truly discern. The same intuition that allowed them to chart nebulae for sonic compositions now guided them through the battlefield. They ignored the blaring alarms, the cries of injured crew, the terrifying hum of straining weapon systems. I perceive a resonance, Vel Aris finally transmitted, their voice shaking with effort. A microfold in subspace. Unstable, but accessible. Coordinate signature, Gamma 7, Delta 9, Vector, Sol Prime Beta. It will lead to the neutral zone, just outside consensus space. Caldwell grabbed the coordinates from the console. Rian, plot it. Get us to Gamma 7, Delta 9. Full power. Prepare for a blind jump. Captain, the Xylos are deploying boarding pods, Colonel Carter shouted. We have incoming. Heavy marine resistance needed on decks 5 through 10. The Intrepid took another hammering blow, throwing Vel Aris from the console. Sparks flew from damaged conduits. The main view screen flickered wildly, showing the Xylo ships closing in, their launch bays disgorging arms shuttles. They're trying to prevent our escape, Caldwell bellowed, his voice filled with grim determination. Shields holding for now. Navrel, how long for the jump calculations to finalize? Vel Aris struggled back to the console, their light form flickering with the strain. Two more Terran minutes. It is a tight passage. It requires a precise energetic pulse. 2 minutes! Caldwell slammed a fist on his armrest. Give me everything you've got. Hold them off. The battle was reaching its crescendo. The Intrepid was bleeding energy. Its defenses weakening. The Xylos boarding ponds were closing fast. Vel Aris felt the sickening lurch of the FTL drive engaging, the tearing of spacetime. For a terrifying moment, the ship seemed to hang suspended between two realities. Then, with a blinding flash of light that enveloped the entire vessel, the ISS Intrepid vanished, leaving behind a chaotic void filled only with the confused and enraged Cathar and Xylos forces, firing into empty space. Aboard the Intrepid, the silence that followed the jump was deafening, broken only by the hum of emergency power and the labored breathing of the Terran crew. The ship was battered, scarred, but intact. Vel Aris, still connected to the navigation console, felt a profound exhaustion. They had poured everything into that jump. Status report. Caldwell's voice was hoarse but steady. All systems critical, Captain, but stable. Ryan reported, a relieved gasp escaping her lips. We're in the neutral zone, just outside consensus space. They didn't follow. They couldn't. Damage control teams, assess hull breaches. Medical, report on casualties. Caldwell commanded, then turned to Vel Aris. His face was streaked with sweat and grime, but his eyes held an undeniable pride. Captain Vel Aris, you saved us. Thank you. Vel Aris could only pulse weakly. They had seen the red etheric hazard. They had seen its fury, its capacity for destruction. But they had also seen its fierce loyalty, its unwavering protectiveness, its willingness to face impossible odds for complete strangers. The archives were wrong, terribly, dangerously wrong. They had not called for assistance from a danger. They had called for assistance from a shield. Suddenly, a new blip appeared on the long-range sensor. Not an enemy, not a Terran vessel. It was a consensus beacon, faint but distinct. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Vance announced, his voice tentative. Incoming transmission. It's the Great Consensus. They're demanding to know why a red etheric hazard vessel is operating so close to their borders and what those energy signatures from the contested zone signify. Caldwell's eyes narrowed. He looked at Vel Aris, then back at the main screen where the distant Imperious Consensus beacon pulsed. They had escaped one battle, only to arrive at the doorstep of another. This one, however, would be fought not with weapons, but with words, with truth. And Vel Aris, a newly recovered Aetherian from a supposedly peaceful species, now held the key. Captain Marcus Caldwell's stern gaze lingered on the pulsing consensus beacon. So, the galaxy's arbiters of harmony have arrived, he murmured, a sardonic edge to his voice. He glanced at Vel Aris, who, though recovered, still pulsed with the aftershocks of the battle and the long-held fear of the consensus. Captain Valaris, this is your chance. Your testimony could change everything, not just for humanity, but for every species that has ever been misjudged. Valaris, their light form shimmering with newfound determination, resonated. I will speak, Captain Caldwell. The truth must be seen. Vets, Caldwell ordered, turning to his communications officer. Patch the consensus through. Open a secure channel. Inform them we are ready to receive their delegation, but our shields remain at full power and weapons hot. This is our ship, and our guests are under our protection. A short cycle later, the Intrepid's long-range sensors detected the approach of the consensus vessel. It was a diplomatic envoy-class cruiser, sleek and unmarred, its hull a pristine pearlescent white that reflected the stars with an almost arrogant purity. It seemed to float effortlessly through the void, radiating an aura of serene authority that bespoke millennia of unchallenged galactic governance. Unlike the scarred, functional gray of the Intrepid, the consensus ship looked like a fragile artifice, yet it commanded respect through sheer political might. They're hailing us, Captain, Vance reported. Ambassador Cuthrax requests immediate transfer to your command bridge for an emergency hearing regarding your unauthorized presence in a neutral zone and the egregious energy disturbances originating from your vessel. Caldwell snorted. Egregious energy disturbances, indeed. Tell Ambassador Cuthrax that Captain Valaris of the Whispering Dawn will accompany me to the primary conference chamber. We will not be conducting this discussion on our bridge. He paused, a glint in his eye. And ensure a full contingent of Marine Honor Guard is present. For diplomatic courtesy, of course. The implication was clear. The Intrepid was a warship, and even in diplomacy, they would demonstrate their resolve. Within the hour, a sleek consensus shuttle, devoid of any discernible weaponry, docked with the Intrepid's primary airlock. The Terran medical bay had been a sanctuary, but the common areas Valaris had traversed were purely functional. Now, as they were escorted by two imposing Marines in full power armor towards the Intrepid's conference chamber, Valaris perceived the ship in a new light. The corridors were still stark, but their walls bore subtle scorch marks, hastily patched panels, and the lingering scent of ozone. The Intrepid was not merely a vessel, it was a testament to resilience, a monument to survival. Inside the conference chamber, the atmosphere was tense. The room, typically used for strategic briefings, had been hastily repurposed. A long, polished table dominated the center, surrounded by an array of high-backed chairs. At the far end, Caldwell stood, flanked by Colonel Carter and Commander Jensen. Behind them, a squad of heavily armed Marines stood at parade rest, their presence a silent, formidable declaration. The consensus delegation entered. Ambassador Cathrax, the towering, multi-limbed being from the Vashir Prime, led the procession. Their crystalline exoskeleton shimmered with authority, and their multiple optical arrays scanned the room with an air of detached superiority. Accompanying Cathrax were two other delegates, a stoic, multifaceted Rill from the Lumina Collective, and a swirling gaseous entity contained within a gleaming, transparent suit representing the Eldarian Concord. All were beings of immense galactic standing, representatives of species that had known peace and prosperity for eons, often attributing their tranquility to strict adherence to consensus protocols and the judicious isolation of hazard worlds like Sol 3. Captain Caldwell, Cathrax resonated, their voice a melodious yet chillingly devoid of warmth. This unprovoked aggression, this blatant disregard for established neutral zones, and the chaotic energy signatures emanating from your vessel are deeply troubling. We detected signatures from both Cathar and Xylos vessels, a clear violation of non-aggression treaties within the Veiled Frontier. What possible explanation could you offer for such a grave breach of galactic peace? Caldwell stepped forward, his posture unwavering. Ambassador Clax, let me be clear. The ISS Intrepid was not engaged in aggression. We were engaged in a rescue operation, a humanitarian mission. He gestured to Valaris. Captain Valaris and their crew were critically imperiled, adrift in the void, facing complete energy dispersion. We answered their distress call. Clax's optical arrays narrowed. Our rescue? Of a Whispering Dawn vessel? Captain Valaris, you say? The Etherians have strict protocols against contact with designated red etheric hazard worlds. Your distress call, if indeed it was from you, would have been flagged and ignored by any responsible consensus member. And as for energy signatures, we noted a massive parasitic energy drain consistent with a void spore. Such anomalies are rare and naturally occurring. It is highly improbable that you encountered one precisely when your vessel was in distress. The real delegate shifted, emitting a low, skeptical hum. The Eldarian entity swirled agitatedly within its suit. The implication was clear. This was a fabricated story, a convenient excuse for Terran expansionism. Improbable, Ambassador? Caldwell's voice was dangerously quiet. Or inconvenient for your established narratives? We have Captain Velaris here, fully recovered thanks to Terran medical science, ready to testify to every detail. We also have salvage data from the Whispering Dawn that corroborates the void spore infestation. And perhaps, Ambassador, you can explain why, when a rescue vessel from a ready-theric hazard world saves a consensus species, it suddenly finds itself under coordinated attack by two of the most aggressive factions in the contested zone. Cathrax recoiled slightly. Coordinated attack? That is a grave accusation, Captain. Our intelligence suggests only minor skirmishes, and we have no record of joint operations between the Cathar and Xylos. Your assertions border on libel. They are not assertions, Ambassador, Caldwell stated, his gaze fixed on Cathrax. They are facts, and Captain Velaris will confirm them. Captain, if you would. All optical arrays, all light signatures turned to Velaris. Their light form pulsed with a deep, resolute clarity. They stepped forward, standing between Caldwell and the intimidating consensus delegates. Ambassador Cathrax, honored members of the consensus, Velaris resonated, their voice weaving through the ship's translation systems with a new resonant strength. My name is Captain Velaris of the Whispering Dawn. My crew and I were indeed dying. Our vessel was infested by a parasitic void spore, an entity unlike anything in our collected knowledge. It drained our lumen vents, consumed our very light. We called for aid into the void, a desperate plea. Only Sol 3, the Terran homeworld, answered. They paused, allowing the resonance to settle. The archives of the Great Consensus label Sol 3 as red etheric hazard, a species of unpredictable aggression, prone to self-annihilation. We received this warning. Every Etherean on my crew felt the profound fear of calling upon such beings. Yet we faced dispersion. We had no choice but to trust. Velaris's light patterns intensified. When the ISS Intrepid emerged from hyperspace, its presence was terrifying. A colossal vessel designed for war, scarred by conflict. Its admiral, Gina Rostova, and Captain Caldwell, commanding officers of a defense command, confirmed their intent to board. We submitted, prepared for annexation, for obliteration, for the savage acts warned of by your archives. The Etherian captain turned to the delegates, their form radiating unwavering conviction. But what we found, Ambassador, was not savagery. It was compassion. It was skill. It was a profound, unyielding dedication to rescue. Dr. Lena Petrova, a Terran medic, knelt by our Tyxel, understanding their fragile biology, restoring their light with alien technology. Sergeant Jax O'Connell, a warrior in heavy armor, tended to my most injured crew with a gentleness that defied his appearance. Commander Lyra Jensen, whose face I saw beneath her battle helmet, radiated empathy. Velaris's voice gained a mournful quality. They were indeed warriors. Their ship was a weapon. But they converted that weapon into an ambulance, into a sanctuary. They learned our language, adapted their environment, and treated my people as if we were their own kin. They risked their lives for strangers they had never met, from a species their own archives labeled as a hazard. The real delegate emitted a soft, questioning hum. The Eldarian entity swirled with a slower, more contemplative motion. Cathrax remained impassive, but a flicker of uncertainty crossed their multifaceted eyes. Then, as our recovery progressed, Velaris continued, Captain Caldwell and his science team revealed the true nature of the void spore. It was natural anomaly. It was a bioweapon designed to consume ambient energy, to destabilize energy-based life forms. We provided our navigational data, our unique knowledge of the subspace pathways, and Captain Caldwell confirmed his greatest fears. The Veiled Frontier was being used as a testing ground for this weapon. By whom? We do not know for certain, but the circumstantial evidence pointed to the Cathar Imperium and the Xylos hegemony, two species currently engaging in aggressive expansionism in this very sector. A collective gasp, a rush of light patterns from the Rel delegate. This was a direct accusation against two species, both with significant influence within galactic politics, though not full consensus members. And then, Valeris's voice swelled with renewed power as the Intrepid neared the edge of the contested zone, escaping with our rescued crew. Those two factions attacked, a coordinated assault. 3 Cathar cruisers, 6 destroyers, then the Xylos hegemony, their ships materializing, flanking the battle. They sought to overwhelm the Intrepid, to prevent our escape, to silence the witnesses to their barbarism. Captain Caldwell issued an order, Ambassador, an order that should resonate through every corner of the galaxy. Valeris paused, their light pulsing with the memory of the battle. He said, "We have vulnerable refugees aboard, and we will protect them at all costs. Show them what humanity is capable of. For Sol, for Earth, for the Etherians." The Intrepid fought, Ambassador. Valeris's voice resonated with the full force of their experience, not with malice, but with a fierce, unwavering protectiveness. They were outmatched, bleeding, but they held the line. And when all seemed lost, when their ship was on the brink of collapse, Captain Caldwell asked for my help. He asked for my unique knowledge, my ability to perceive the subtle harmonies of subspace, to plot an escape route through an unstable microfold. My people, the Etherians, who had fled from conflict for eons, were now the navigators for a warrior race. And together, we escaped. Valeris concluded, their light radiating pure truth. The consensus archives are wrong, dangerously wrong. The Terrans are indeed warriors. They build ships of war. They train for conflict. But they are not aggressive. They are not chaotic. They are not prone to self-annihilation. They are protectors. They are healers. They are the only species who answered our desperate cry, and they fought a war for us, for our children, against unimaginable odds. They are soldiers with hearts of starlight, and the galaxy needs to know it. A profound silence descended upon the conference chamber. The Terrans stood stoic, their faces revealing nothing but a quiet, fierce pride. The consensus delegates, however, were visibly shaken. Cathrax's exoskeleton dulled, the Ril's light patterns shifted erratically, and the Eldarian entity swirled in a frenzy of confusion. Captain Valeris, Crass finally resonated, their voice stripped of its earlier arrogance. Your testimony is most compelling. We will require time to corroborate this data. The implications are immense. The implications are that the consensus has been operating under a deeply flawed premise for 70 years, Ambassador, Caldwell interjected, his voice firm. You dismissed an entire species, condemning us based on outdated and perhaps manipulated data. While you preach harmony, your member species, like the Cathar and Xylos, have been using the void as a testing ground for bioweapons and preying on vulnerable research vessels. We were labeled a hazard because we defend ourselves, because we protect our own, and as you have just heard, because we protect others, even those who judge us. Cathrax's optical arrays turned to Caldwell. We will launch an immediate comprehensive investigation into the Void Spore incidents and the alleged coordinated attack. The Cathar Imperium and Xylos hegemony will be held accountable if these claims are verified. Their voice resonated with newfound urgency. This weapon must be neutralized. It poses a grave threat to all energy-based life forms, potentially destabilizing entire star systems. Indeed, Caldwell agreed. And we have data, technical specifications, and the full biological profile of the Void Spore that our science division has compiled. We will share it, along with the Whispering Dawn's logs and our combat records, with your top researchers. You'll find our commitment to galactic security unwavering. The diplomatic hearing concluded hours later. The consensus delegates, chastened and clearly overwhelmed by the weight of Valeris's testimony and Caldwell's unyielding stance, departed. Before Cathrax left, they resonated. Captain Caldwell, Captain Valeris, we will reconvene this matter. The consensus may have erred. In the days that followed, the ISS Intrepid continued its journey towards Earth, but the atmosphere aboard had shifted dramatically. News of the encounter and Valeris's testimony spread like wildfire across the galactic networks. The Turans had provided the consensus with irrefutable evidence of the Void Spore's artificial nature and the Cathar-Xylos aggression. Emergency debates erupted across galactic sectors. The long-held isolationist policies of the consensus, particularly regarding hazard species, came under intense scrutiny. On Earth, Admiral Jenna Rostova, after receiving Captain Caldwell's detailed report and the full transcript of Velaris's testimony, initiated a planet-wide broadcast. The images of the Whispering Dawn's rescued sparklings, glowing with renewed health in the Intrepid's medical bay, were beamed across every screen. Velaris's resonant words, translated into every known Terran language, captivated billions. Humanity saw itself reflected in the Ethereans' fear and in their own unyielding response. The Great Consensus, facing unprecedented internal pressure and the undeniable threat of the Void Spore, was forced to act. An emergency summit was convened. The evidence presented by the Terrans, meticulously verified, forced a paradigm shift. The Cathar Imperium and Xylos hegemony faced immediate sanctions and investigations. Their expansionist ambitions were severely curtailed as the consensus, now fully aware of the bioweapon threat, began to deploy its own, albeit smaller, defense fleets to secure its orders and neutralize the Void Spore where it had been deployed. And for humanity, the Red Etheric Hazard classification was formally suspended. While full consensus membership would still require time and further diplomatic engagement, the initial steps towards integration were swift. Terran ambassadors were dispatched to previously closed systems. Collaborative research initiatives were proposed, particularly regarding void spore containment and energy field manipulation. The galactic community, long wary of Sol 3, now saw a different truth. A species born from struggle, yes, but tempered by it into fierce, compassionate protectors. Aboard the Intrepid, now comfortably in Terran-controlled space, Velaris stood with Caldwell on the observation deck, watching the distant, vibrant blue marble of Earth grow larger on the view screen. The Sparklings, now fully restored, played among the Aetherian crew, their light forms swirling with joyful energy. "They are safe, Captain Caldwell," Velaris resonated, a profound peace in their hum. "Thanks to you. Thanks to your people." "They are, Captain Velaris," Caldwell replied, a rare, genuine smile on his face. "And the galaxy is a little safer too, thanks to your courage." Your words shattered a long-held prejudice. "The Whispering Dawn will be retrieved," Caldwell continued, gesturing to a distant recovery vessel on the monitor. "Our engineers believe we can, with your guidance, help restore its organic structure, and once it's stable, we would be honored to host your people on Earth for as long as you need. Our scientific academies are eager to learn from you, and our defense forces, well, they found a new respect for a species that can navigate the void purely by resonance." Velaris's light form pulsed with warmth. "And the Epherian Collective wishes to learn from you, Captain Caldwell, from your resilience, your protectiveness. Perhaps together, we can forge a new path for the galaxy, one where harmony is not achieved through isolation, but through shared strength and mutual defense." Caldwell nodded, his gaze sweeping across the vast expanse of space, where new alliances were already forming and old prejudices were beginning to crumble. The galaxy was indeed a dangerous place, fraught with conflict and hidden threats. But it also held boundless potential for connection, for empathy, for unexpected heroism. And humanity, once labeled a hazard, now stood ready to be its starlight shield. The journey had just truly begun.